after getting everything out of their templates and back on the table, you can get an idea of everything included in the X-Wing core set from Fantasy Flight Games. It gives you, as we saw, the X-Wing, 2 TIE fighters, your maneuver templates, the pilot cards that correspond with each ship you plan on using, different chits that you can see are on the bottom. They go on the bases and determine who you're using, one of each of the Imperial pilots, and then they're double-sided, so you can choose to which one you're going to go with when you're using the models. In addition to the pilot cards I talked about earlier, many of the ships can take upgrade cards. The Rebel ships have access to proton torpedoes if their card allows it, which so far most of the Rebellion ships do have the proton torpedo icon. And then it's just a point cost towards your squad build. It gives you the point cost in the bottom of the card, and you add that to your point cost of the ship, and then subtotals it, and then you build towards your agreed upon point totals that you both play against, Imperial and Rebel. A standard game for their Fantasy Flight's tournament rules is 100 points. So if both players feel 100-point force, which is obviously going to be more than the starter deck, or starter box rather, it'll behoove you to buy some boosters. So you look at the upgrade cards as well, and you have R2-D2. He's a unique droid. The dots, like many other games, give you a unique dot on them, whereas only that particular copy can be played by one player at a time. Unless you're playing like a mirror match, say Rebels versus Rebels in a tournament type game, which that does and can happen, which can bring me to the number tokens. When you have 2 pilots that are the same, they give you numbers in the starter box, I believe 1 through 9 it looks like, to put on the ships, and those can go actually right on the base in the front like so, and then one on the back to match it, and now you have the other one on the ship card to identify it as Luke is now the 1. Of course, everyone usually puts 5 on Luke, because he is red 5, of course. That's the fanboy in all of us, right? As I spoke of the dials earlier, that's what's used to maneuver the ships around. And every turn after they make their maneuver, those are chosen in secret. Each player chooses them at the same time, and reveals them based on the pilot skill we spoke of earlier. After they move the ships with the templates, which we'll get to in a second, then you have the option to do actions with your ships, which is what all the other tokens are for. The shield tokens start out on the ship to pretty much show you it's shielded. So when you have that off in your sideboard area to show who you're using, you put the shield tokens somewhere near the ship card so you know who has the shields on it. Other tokens they give you are stress tokens, which is this exclamation point here, and that's if a pilot does a very difficult maneuver and kind of puts him at a challenge for the remainder of the turn, he'll lose his action, which the actions we'll get to in a second are these 2 tokens here, as well as the target lock possibility, but you lose that if you take stress tokens. We'll get to that in a second with the movement dials. These are critical hit tokens to show what happens when you take a damage card that becomes a critical hit. To do those said damage, you roll dice. You have a special set of attack dice, which you have a look at. You have a closed-in star, which designates a regular hit. You have a open star, which shows a critical hit, and then you have the eye, which does not stand for CBS. There is no affiliation there. We are looking at those as a focus icon, and when a player has enough of has those rolled in place of an attack, if they have chosen a focus token for their action, the focus token will automatically make those a hit. Or, in the case of defense, which I'll get to in a second here, it can be an evade. The green dice are how you get out of the way of the hits. As you can see, they give you this icon, which is called the evade icon, and the focus icon, and then you'll have a blank face on, I believe, three of the size of this 8-sided die is blank. So again, likewise, when you roll them in succession. The attacking player will start with his, and they roll dice equal to the number of attack that the ship can dole out. X-Wings, as a rule, deal 3 attack. So when the X-Wing player attacks a TIE fighter, if they're within range, they'll roll 3 attack dice. In this case, I rolled pretty good. So we look at 2 hits and a focus, and we'll say for the sake of argument there is no focus action taken, so the last one really nothing happens. The defending player, say for example a TIE fighter, has 3 defense dice. So the TIE fighter player would roll his defense dice. And in this case, you'll see I rolled 2 evade icons and a blank. Well, like in many other board games, the hits are canceled by the misses, or the evades rather. So you put them against each other and they clear the table. So that counts as a miss, and that counts as a miss, leaving with a blank and a blank. So therefore, the TIE Fighter would take no damage. The TIE Fighters have the benefit of sometimes rolling more defense dice when the Rebel pilot throws attack dice. They do have a higher defense, at 3 defense, 3 agility rather. And you look at the X-Wings, they have a 2 agility, so the X-Wings only roll 2 defense dice, unless, again, there are other variables, like if you look at the range ruler, it's divided into sections. Range band 1 gives attackers a bonus with that primary weapon if they're attacking an enemy at range band 1. Say, for example, the X-Wing has maneuvered his X-Wing into range band 1 behind the TIE Fighter. Well, you take your standard attack of 3, and because he's within the range 1, he'd roll a 4th attack die. So that does give you the benefit of getting in close and dogfighting. On the flip side of that, if the TIE Fighter was out past the range ruler 3 mark, then because that happens, he gets 1 bonus to his agility die. So he'd be rolling 4 of the agility dice. So the farther away a TIE is, the harder it is to hit. Vice versa, if it's closer, it's going to be hit easier. In addition to the ships and dice and everything else in this, we also have other chits and tokens that can be used with scenario play, which the rule book does give you 3 different missions that you can play right out of the box using the tokens they've given you. You have a mission 1 political escort, where the rebellion player attempts to escort a shuttle, which they give you a senatorial shuttle here, which has stats on it as well as the nubs for maneuvering, which I'll show you here very soon, that corresponds with the maneuver templates. In addition to that, you have other tokens that are used with the other missions, like these asteroids, and the asteroids, of course, are used in the asteroid run mission, as well as any Fantasy Flight organized play and tournament play. They do require you to use asteroids, which do make the game play a whole lot different, as you have to avoid crashing into those, as well as trying to avoid the fire of your opponents. So when it comes up to actually play the game, both players start by choosing their maneuvers. That's the first step of the game. If you look at the quick start rules, it gives you an idea on what you want to, how to put the ships together, and then of course field your squads. It gives you an idea on how you want to set up your play area, where you put your maneuver templates here, as well as all your ship cards and everything else. You'll shuffle the damage deck, which is these cards here. This is how the ships are determined to be destroyed or kept at the end of battles. And it goes off to the side, as you can see in the picture there. Of course, it gives you basically step-by-step right through the game, where you choose a maneuver, which is what we're doing with the dial here. And you actually make your move when you reveal the dials. The dials are revealed based on the skill of the pilot. Like I said before when we first started talking, the lower the pilot's skill, the first movement they make, or the early movements they make rather in the round. So let's say, for example, the TIE Fighter wants to get in the action fast. So he chooses, it's obviously a secret from your opponent, but say you choose the 5 and you put that face down by your opponent, they don't know what you've chosen. So when it comes time to reveal, let's say Luke is out here on the other side of him, we'll reveal, I guess we'll give Luke a movement dial here as well, all in secret of course. So the lower number pilot would move first, he would reveal his dial, and then choose the corresponding movement template. Now if you look at the very front of the piece, there are 2 small plastic nubs. You just simply line the maneuver template up inside of those, hold the template down with one hand, move the ship to the other end, in between the nubs on the back of the ship, and you've completed your move. Pull the template away, and now your TIE Fighter made his move for the round.